relative value is used in investments if we want to talk about investments. So today we are going to practice determining relative value. So first, as I mentioned, relative value is used when evaluating investments. It allows the investor to make better decisions because relative value allows you to not only look at the investment itself, so what you are interested in, it also allows you to compare to other investments, right? So we want to say, check this investment, compare it to the others. Now, how do we do that? We do that by the price to earnings ratio, known as PE. So this is the ratio used to measure relative value. Now, the price to earnings ratio is found by taking the stock price and dividing by the earnings per share. Okay, so stock price is what you would see, like if you look at the ticker at the bottom of a TV of all of the stock prices, that's the numerator. Earnings per share is how much an investor earns on each share of the stock that they have, okay? Now, how do we find earnings per share, right? So you see that down here, earnings per share known as EPS. This is the denominator, okay? So earnings per share is found by taking the profit of the company divided by the number of outstanding common shares. Okay, so you can see if we need to find the earnings price to earnings ratio, our first step is to find the earnings per share. Then we use that for the denominator, and step 2 would then be to create or to find the price to earnings ratio. So how do we interpret this after we find it? Well, if the ratio is lower, that means it's more attractive as an investment. And when I say lower, what does that mean? Well, we're talking below 15. Okay, so when you find this price to earnings ratio, if it's below 15, this is more attractive as an investment. If the ratio is higher, and that means above 18, the stock may be overvalued. It might not be a good option right now. So you can see we have this 16-17 issue, right? Like between that, that's kind of the middle ground of, is it a good investment? Is it overvalued? Hard to tell. Okay, that's the just kind of in the middle kind of a piece. Now, the third option, right? So we talked about lower, we talked about higher. What if the price to earnings ratio does not exist? Now, that means the company maybe has no profit. That could be for a whole host of reasons. It could be because the company just started, so there's no profit. It could be it's just not a very good company, so there's no profit. But there's just zero profit. Think about it from a mathematical standpoint. If profit is 0, then this whole ratio would be 0, which means the denominator would be 0, which does not exist. That is why no profit would result in a no price to earnings ratio. Now, besides having no profit, we also could just be losing money. If the company is losing money, then shareholders are not receiving any earnings, right? There's no earnings per share. And if there are no earnings per share, there is no price to earning ratio. So you might need to do a lot more digging into a company that you want to invest in if there is no price to earning ratio. Let's do an example. A company posted a profit of $2,500,000 last year and has 200,000 outstanding common shares. If the stock price is $45, what is the price to earnings ratio? Okay, now remember, price to earnings ratio is stock price over the earnings per share. So I first have to start by finding the earnings per share, which is profit over the number of outstanding common shares. So let's start there. My profit is $2,500,000 and I have 200,000 common shares. That means my earnings per share is $12.50 or 12.5. Okay. So now I can go to find my price to earnings ratio. I can take my stock price of 45, divide it by my earnings per share of 12.5, and I end up with 3.6 for my price to earnings ratio. Now, we said earlier below 15, So this is looking good as an investment because the price to earning ratio is less than 15.